Hey, everybody. How's it going? Happy Wednesday. It's hump day. We've almost made it through. And speaking of hump day, that's what we're going to talk about. But hey, anyway, guys, I hope everybody is having a great, fantastic week. I started off a little rocky this week, but welcome to episode 3 of Wake Up Wednesday. Now, if you haven't followed us so far or followed me so far on this, what I've been doing is I've been breaking down core 4 every week. So the first week of the month, we break down our body. Second week, we break down our being. Third week, we're talking about balance. And now I'm not talking about balance like you're on a teeter-totter or you're trying to balance. What I'm talking about is your life balance, your life with your wife. And yes, men, today I'm talking directly to you. So let's get into it, huh? As you see in the title, does your wife feel like your roommate? How many men out there can understand what I am saying? Right? So there was a time in my life where my wife and I just felt like we lived together. It felt like we weren't really connecting. And honestly, that's because we both were full of shit. We were scared of sharing our vulnerability of our feelings. And you know what? It all comes down to we are liars. Now, some of you may be saying, Paul, I'm not a liar. I don't lie to my wife. I'd have you consider that you do. Because if you shield a truth from your wife or your spouse, you can insert that in any situation that is still lying. And as we look at this landscape today here in America, 40 to 50% of first marriages fail. Almost half of first marriages fail. And the even more staggering statistic is 67% of second marriages fail. So guys, something is clearly wrong. And that's why we're doing this. So let me tell you a little story about myself. So back when I worked at the fire department, yes, I always go back there. It's definitely more of a quarter of my life. I felt like my wife and I were just passing each other by. You know, we get so caught up in, the hustle and bustle of life, right? We get so caught up. And also, if you pop on, just give me a thumbs up or something to make sure you can hear me. I got it. Hey, Grand Rapids, can you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? I just want to make sure you guys can hear me through this mic. But anyway, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be great. So anyway, we get so caught up in this hustle and bustle of life. And what tends to happen is, especially when you start inserting kids into the mix, man, shit gets crazy. Hey, holy shit, what's up? Hey, give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me, please. I want to make sure this is going through because this is important. So we get so caught up, right? Especially if you're a business owner like my wife and I are, and we're running a business. You guys are putting everything you have into it. Then you have the kids, and then you have everything that's extracurricular outside of that. It's real easy for you and your wife to lose connection. Super, super easy. What's up, Barefoot? Glad you're popping on, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Love what you're doing. It's really, really easy to lose that connection. It's really easy to lose that fire with your wife. So then you guys start acting like roommates. Hey, you didn't do the dishes. Hey, this, blah, 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 blah. And then the intimacy fails, right? As a man, you stop getting laid. And as men, that is something that's important to us. And it's not toxic or misogynistic to want sex as a man. That is 100% natural. And don't let anybody ever tell you that it's not. Okay? And it's natural well into your elder years as well. So more on that later. But anyway, you get caught up in that hustle and bustle. Oh, there we go. So I started to feel like that with my wife. I was working at the fire department. I was working 10-hour days, but they're really 12-hour days. And I would come home and, I was tired as a man. Like when you're producing as a man and you come home and you work your ass off so that you can provide for you and your family, because as men, that's what we do. You get tired and you don't feel like fighting when you get home. You don't feel like doing much more than, doing Netflix and chill. You don't feel like helping out around the house or whatever it is for you. So then as men, we go into this place where we don't want to share what we are truly feeling. So we then shield it. So that's why I say, guys, you are a liar. If you're not having a deep conversation with your wife on what you truly, truly want, and you're truly focusing on connection without judgment, and you're being vulnerable, you're lying to her. And it's my experience that what women truly want is they want a man that can be vulnerable. You're not a pussy if you're vulnerable with the one person that you made a communion with under God. I in the fire service, it's very, very male dominant. And that's a system. Hey guys, thanks for popping on. I appreciate y'all. That is a system that does not promote feelings, right? And we live in a society where, our fathers, our grandfathers, they grow up and don't you cry, boy, blah, 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 right? What's up, James? That's how we were raised. And the problem is the sedation of man has been happening for over 100 years. Easy. Don't show your feelings. This happened when they got sent to war. If you go to war and you have to potentially execute somebody for your country, you cannot be worried about your feelings. So then as men, we come home as shells. And I'd even have you consider when we work our asses off to provide for our family, that the same type of situation happens. We stuff our feelings down and then we act out in certain different ways, right? We may throw a temper tantrum. We may, go into the basement and watch football all day. I'm not saying those things are wrong, but when we get in this conversation of balance, what I'm talking about is you need to connect with your wife. Now, obviously I can't know every situation, and, you may be saying, Paul, you don't know what my wife did or whatever. I understand that every marriage cannot be saved, but I can definitely consider that when 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce and there's kids involved, yeah, you damn well better try. So when we talk about balance, we talk about doing daily deposits. It's just like a bank account in a sense. I'm going to break this down, make it real logical for you men. You got to make daily deposits with your wife. Now, you also get to make withdrawals if you're making deposits, right? And how I do this, or how I started to do this when I started to get out of this way that I was in of being with my wife and not feeling like we're roommates, it came down to me being real. It came down to me being vulnerable with her. And it was a conversation. Sorry, it's going up. It was a conversation with her. But as men, we also have to be prepared to have that conversation. And it may not go our way. We may not get the answers that we want. And we may be hearing things back from her. If we open that door of vulnerability, that she gives us something back that we don't want to hear or that we're not going to like to hear. So if you're going to be able to dish out the truth and your raw and real feelings with your wife, like I'm suggesting that you do on a daily basis, then you got to be willing to receive those as well. And once my wife and I started doing that, we started to connect more. And once we started doing daily deposits with each other, right? Honor, appreciation, and love. That's how I look at it. You got to have honor for your queen, right? This is the person that you chose to do life with. You had a choice. I don't care what the circumstances were, but you had a choice to do this life with your wife. So you got to treat her like a queen. You got to honor her, especially if she's the mother of your children. Damn right, you got to honor her. And you should never be dishonoring your queen in front of your children. And that can happen many different ways. So honoring her, letting her know that you are with her, you support her, right? If she wants to go do some crazy ass course like my wife wants to do sometimes, I support her. You got to honor her. The next thing you got to do is appreciate her. So in that situation that I was in, when I worked for the fire department, working all the time, on call all the time, coming home just dead ass tired, it was really, really hard, especially when she had our son. She was running a small business. She had her son with her. And when I come home as a man, it's like, man, I just don't want to do the work. But it's in that sense that you have to show appreciation for her, even if your roles are reversed like mine are now. Letting her know that you see her hard work. And I'm just telling you guys what I did. This can look differently for you, but showing appreciation to her every day. And the next is love. That's connection. Early on, since my wife and I, part of our story is she was in grad school becoming a doctor, and we were long distance for almost 4 years. And that, guys, that almost broke us. Like, we almost did not survive that. And we talk about that in our first podcast. But what helped us survive it was we were reading books. And that's when we read the love language book. And so part of that connection, I know for my wife, is she loves and she values quality time as her language. So that doesn't mean, if we're going to sit and watch a movie because that's something that you got to make that deposit into, that I'm on my phone. That's not quality time. So how we do this is every other week we go on a date night. Tomorrow is going to be our next date night. And when we're doing that, we are focused on connecting with each other for at least 2 to 3 hours. Without the kids, we hire a nanny. We alternate on who picks what, and we go and we shut off everything that we can of the hustle and bustle of life. That's what we do. Now, some couples, they go every week. But what's working for us right now is we're going every other week. And it's having that deep connection, that deep conversation that most women want to have with you. And so that's part of how I handle my balance. I'll send her texts. I'll leave her notes. I'll write on the mirror. I'm not a guy that really buys flowers. I can't even tell you the last time I bought flowers. But whatever that is for your wife, you have to start somewhere. You have to start making daily deposits of honor, appreciation, and love. And you have to have that true connection with her. And as men, I say it's okay to be vulnerable, especially with the person that you chose to spend the rest of your life with. And I feel like most women would accept that as long as you're coming from a place with no judgment and you make her feel safe. And you're not going to throw a tantrum when you say, honey, you know what? I just feel like we haven't been connecting lately. Like, why do you think I'm feeling like this? What do I need to do? Blah, blah, blah. And as for men, you know what? The end game is obviously to get laid. It's the truth. We're men. It's healthy. It's okay. And before I wrap this up and go into the next piece of balance, this is something that I told my brother who got married last month. In my best man speech, I said, don't ever stop dating your wife. Don't ever stop playing. Don't ever stop connecting and remembering this day as why you are here. So some of you may be heading towards that statistic of divorce. But I'd have you consider, have you been real and raw with your spouse, with your wife? From a judgment-free zone so that she could feel safe. Because as soon as women don't feel safe or they feel judged, that's when in my experience, the control comes out, right? So are you making these daily deposits? And it starts with that. Now, if there's some healing that needs to happen, and there's been some very dark, bad stuff that's happened in your guys' past, yeah, she may not respond to a daily text of appreciation. But first, it's starting that conversation of like, what is the problem here, right? From that place of no judgment, from that place of safety, from that place of vulnerability. And the next part of balance is our posterity, our children. So similar to, my wife feeling like a roommate, I'd use the same analogy for my son at the time. Like he was just a smaller, roommate that needed more help. Because as a father, this is one of the big proponents why I left the fire department. It wasn't the only one, but it was a big one. I'd get up before he got up. I'd get home about an hour before he went to bed. So as a man, I'm basically spending an hour a day with my kid. And I knew that was not okay for me. And sometimes as men, when we are producers, we have to do what we got to do to provide. But guys, I'd have you consider that's not enough. Because for our children, boys or little girls, we have to set the standard. Now I have 2 boys. So my time spent when I got home from the fire department, exhausted, mentally, mind fuck from my coworkers who were constantly fucking with me, trying to get me fired, all kinds of stuff. I just didn't have no container. There was no room left in my container to provide that love to my son, to set that standard for him. And at that point, that's also why I was overweight. And see, so all of these things that we're talking about on Wake Up Wednesdays, they are connected. They are intimately connected. They are interwoven into how you handle your daily life. So now, with my sons, now that I have 2, my goal as a father is, 1, to be the standard. And if you have little girls, you better damn sure make sure you're the standard. Because if you're the standard as her father, you're going to show her what a real man is supposed to act like. Not some of these little fucking soy boys that we have all over this country now. Call me toxic, I don't care. It's the truth. You got these little boys who are on fucking Tinder all the time and they can't even open a door for a woman. It's not working, guys. So as a father, I try and set the standard for my boys every day. They see me working out. They see me working hard. They see how I treat their mother. They see me fail. They see my vulnerability as a father. So I'm setting the standard for them. The next thing is being in their world. Now, my wife and I, we homeschool. That's our choice. It's been our choice for a long time. And I'm thankful that we do because of many reasons. But being in their world to me means being present and with them into whatever it is that they're into. So let me tell you a story. So yesterday, we got home and, I have an older son. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, about to be 8 and 5. And, they were kind of, on their switches for a little bit. And I said, you know what, why don't you guys just go play with your toys? So they go upstairs. I continue to work. And then I hear my youngest son crying. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I thought, maybe they're fighting or something. So I go up there. My youngest son is in his bed crying. I'm like, buddy, what is wrong? He goes, I just want somebody to play with me. And so, first of all, as a father, I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So he doesn't feel that he was getting enough attention. Now he wanted his brother to play with him, but I was like, all right, what do you want to play? So we went and we played for an hour. We set up dinosaurs because that's what he wanted to do. I left my phone downstairs, didn't care. So it's part of that piece when you look at balance and you look at the idea of core 4 every day. I hadn't made that deposit into my son yet. He felt alone. He knew his older brother said he didn't want to play, and he probably knew I was working. And how fucking awesome is it that my 4-year-old is able to have that type of vulnerability with his father and say, I want someone to play with me. Will you play with me, Daddy? And that's why kids are so awesome, because they don't have that filter that we, as we get older, we tend to put on as a mask. You know, we start shielding stuff and we start lying and little lies and all this crap, guys. And that's why we're so fucking, rageaholics as men. Because we don't have that. We don't have that real rawness. We don't feel like we can be that with our spouse. So I'd have you consider, if your wife feels like a roommate, you guys need to have a conversation. And as a man, you need to be vulnerable. And as a man, you need to stop lying. Because we do it. We've been taught to do it. We've been educated to do it by our fathers and our grandfathers. They didn't even know they were doing it. We need to do that with our kids. I don't hide stuff from my kids. They see my failures. But just like I do with my wife, I put daily deposits into my kids. And I don't get it right all the time. I'm not saying my wife and I have the perfect marriage, but our marriage is on fire. Not only are we building a massive business together, we support each other. We make these daily deposits of honor, appreciation, and love with each other. And I know that sounds sappy, but guys, 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. 67% of second marriages in divorce. It's not getting better. It's only getting worse. So this front of not having feelings or not being vulnerable isn't working. And it's especially not working with these soy boys that have no idea how to treat a woman. I mean, these guys almost have sex on demand, which sounds nice for a while, but they don't have that connection with a real woman. A woman you can fucking go to war with when stuff gets fucking dark. So, as always, I appreciate you guys popping on. I definitely like this format a little more. Basically going to turn this into a weekly podcast just for myself on top of the podcast that I'm doing with my wife called the Beard and the Beauty Podcast, which we are recording our 6th episode tomorrow. So that should be out next week. Last thing, if you guys feel like you're struggling in this area, I'd love to help you. I'd love to have a deeper conversation. And the only way we have that deeper conversation is to shoot me a direct message in IG, and we can get the process started. Because the only thing I did mention was once you start connecting more, you really start connecting more, man, if you catch what I'm saying. So until then, we'll see you guys next week, and we'll talk to you soon.